Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at gcnlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set, cocked, locked, blissed. Here we go. Your dial's set correctly to USAPrepares.com. Dr. Shealy, are you blissed?
Yes.
And class, if you'd like to call in and chat with Dr. Norman Shealy, medical doctor, 866-582-9933, 866-582-9933. And this is where converging threats are confronted daily by your instructors. I'm Vincent Finelli, and John is engineering the broadcast in Minnesota. Dr. Shealy, I got a call from Miles this morning. Miles is in Europe. He is one of our senior instructors. And Dr. Shealy, you, of course, are a senior instructor. And he said he wanted to call in and chat with us. And I said, that'd be great. So we're expecting his call. And if you have some medical concerns or issues and you'd like to call us, 866-582-9933. Dr. Shealy, I want to thank you personally for helping on the telephone with my mom on Thanksgiving, and she had a terrible bout. She ultimately, we found out what was wrong. She had a urinary tract infection, and it became so serious that it was in her blood, and she was admitted to Mercy Hospital, which we now refer to as No Mercy, and they treated her with Levaquin, which is a pretty powerful antibiotic, and she's home now. And but I can tell you, Dr. Shealy, about neglect at the hospital. It is the most serious thing I've ever seen. No Mercy Hospital has a I don't even know what you call it. The way they staff the nurses and the aides, they work 12-hour shifts. And if you see the same nurse 2 days in a row, that's a miracle. And I don't like that. I like it when you see the same faces over and over again, because in my opinion, when you see the same nurse on Monday and on Tuesday and on Wednesday and on Thursday, that nurse may have 5 patients. And that nurse would say, whoa, I see a change since 20 minutes ago. Something's wrong. And they can act immediately. Or they can say, wow, there's a great positive change since yesterday. Things are working right. And they can report that to the doctor. But without the continuity of staff, there's no way. Wow, there's a helicopter flying over the farm. That's unusual. Without that continuity, that component of change in a person is missing. What do you think about that?
You're asking for common sense.
I am.
And ethics.
Mm-hmm.
What planet are you living on? You are?
Well,
you expect merciless to have mercy?
I started to relate the story about, and I didn't tell it exactly, but I mentioned that Mercy wanted to advertise on a radio station where you were broadcasting as a medical doctor. Now, we're talking about Mercy Hospital in Springfield, Missouri. Can you share that story, Dr. Shealy? Would you like to? Or
it was still St. John's at that time. Mm-hmm. And one of my agreements with KWTO is that there would be nothing related to medicine or health advertised immediately before or during or immediately after my particular program. Mm-hmm. So one day, immediately, I'm talking about half a second before my program, there was an ad for their medical insurance program. So when it came on, I said, well, folks, I have to tell you, I cannot recommend St. John's Medical Insurance Program. I would suggest Cox is better. St. John's stopped $60,000 of ads on KWTO. And there have been no more medical or health ads immediately around my program.
Well, it's and it only took one advertisement showing up for you to do that? Wow. Okay. Well, I was accused of having a very short fuse. And when I was broadcasting on KWTO, I followed your broadcast. And by the way, that's how Dr. Shealy and I met. And so I said there was a coin company that was advertising. Well, here's what happened. The first day I was broadcasting, my very first day, I was in the studio, and there was a commercial for erectile dysfunction. First break.
Be prepared.
And I took my headphones off, and I was stomping around the studio like, who approved that? How did that commercial get on my show? And I was livid, absolutely livid. The engineer's looking at me like, what's with you? And so after the broadcast, I went into the front office and I said, hey, who approved this? What's going on? And they said, like, who are you? You just got here. Who are you to make these demands about what kind of commercials run on your broadcast? And so that was the last time that they ran that commercial. And then they had another commercial for a storage shed company. And in my opinion, it was not very well done. And it was the equivalent of a 6-year-old talking about, storage sheds. And I said, I don't mind the storage shed commercial, but I do mind the way it was produced, and it's not professional, and I want it done right if it's going to be on my show, or it can't be. They said, you don't understand, this guy's been advertising for years. I said, it's not my concern how long he's been advertising. If he's going to be advertising on my show, I want it done right. And so ultimately they fixed that. But later on, they asked me about this coin company. They wanted to advertise this particular coin company, and I said, absolutely not. I know the guy who owns it. I am not comfortable with him. I do not want that. I do not want my listeners thinking that I endorse that particular company.
Oh, you missed the golden opportunity.
No, actually, I didn't.
I'm teasing.
So here's what happened. The first time I heard it, I called the front office and I said, look, that's not going to work. And if you do it again, I am going to be likely to talk about it. Second time, third time, fourth time. The fifth time it happened, I told him every time, don't do it. And the senior sales guy said, hey, Vinny, come on. They're such a great advertiser. It's a great fit for your program. You like gold and silver, and they are in the gold and silver business and be a wonderful fit. Please, please, please. And I said, absolutely not, because I know the guy, I know the owner, and I'm not going to recommend him. And so on the fifth time that it happened, I said, that's it. That's it. Look, I don't recommend, I don't support, I don't endorse doing business with this company. I do not want them advertising on my show. I've mentioned it to the front office, and I don't know why it's advertising, but I am not recommending this company. That was one of the, between that, my giving out the phone number for Greg Burris, the city manager, talking about the Chinese factory outlet, and the Baptist church that called the police on me twice with the assistance of a local talk show host in Springfield, Missouri. Those things got me in the front office, and I got I got what's called the Velvet Hammer. The Velvet Hammer is, hey, Vinny, we love you. They love you. We love you. They love you. Everybody loves you. You're doing great. Hey, you know what? If you talk about these things, that'd be wonderful. You know, like who's got the best hamburgers in Springfield? And if you talk about donuts and things like that, that's great radio. And by the way, it'd be good if you didn't talk about Ridgecrest Baptist Church. It'd be good if you didn't talk about the Chinese factory outlet, Walmart. It'd be good if you didn't talk about that coin company. And I thought it was just a suggestion. And it was not a suggestion. So if you're wondering why they don't even remember who I am over there at that radio station, even the owner would come to see me every time I went on the air in the studio. He'd come over and he'd say, "Who are you going to complain about today?" And now when people say, "You know a guy named Finelli?" I've heard of him, but I never met him. That's the response. But anyway, I think that was why I am no longer broadcasting in Springfield, Missouri at that particular radio station. So I wanted to share that with you. Dr. Shealy, so Merciless Hospital or No Mercy Hospital, I have called the CEO's office. And I am unable to talk with the CEO. I'm unable to talk with the CFO. I'm unable to talk with the COO. The only people who will talk to me are what they call patient safety. And I figured out what patient safety is. Patient safety is the new name for risk management. Risk management is the name for the department that deals with customers that they think are outraged, have a gripe, and just may bring the hospital to court. Those are the patient safety people. And they're interested in extracting information from us who have been abused, or our family members have been abused, or our loved ones have been abused by the hospital, and they want to find out how much risk there is with this particular case or this particular customer or patient. And those are the only people who will talk to me. And when I've called the hospital, Dr. Shealy, and I get transferred to them, they will not give their last names. They will only give their first names, and they say they're not allowed to give their last name. What kind of nonsense is that? They're running, they're hiding, they're afraid of their own patients or customers or family members. I wanted to share that with you. And we come back, we've got Greg in California. We'll take your call as soon as we come back. Class Dr. Shealy's with us, and he worked at the hospital, and they were so pleased with him that they published his obituary in 1960.
Have you put that up on your website yet?
I will do that, Dr. Shealy. Greg in California, you're on with Dr. Norman Shealy. Welcome.
Pleasure to be talking to you two fellas. I hold you in high esteem.
Well, thank you very much. How can we help you?
I just wanted to confirm that everything you and John Stantonmuller were talking about yesterday about hospitals and their race to the bottom as far as money goes is true. I experienced it. I spent 35 years in one of those places. And I watched it turn into exactly what you're talking about.
Well, let me share with Dr. Shealy and the rest of our class a little bit about what we're saying. Dr. Shealy, I was talking with John Statmiller, and you've met him. He's been at the house, he's been at the farm, he's been at the expos and the meetups. And Dr. Shealy, so John Statmiller and I were on the phone last week, and I said, I'm going to do a special broadcast about what I experienced with Mercy Hospital. Would you like to join me? And he said, well, Norm Shealy would be the guy. I said, well, yeah, I knew that. And Norm Shealy is going to be on the next day. And I said, we'll get the medical opinions, the next day. That'd be Wednesday. But Tuesday, let's talk about what happened. And so we did. And then at the end of the broadcast, we talked about mercy, and we talked about the lack of care and the lack of compassion, and how the staff is not paying attention. We just touched the tip of this iceberg. And at the end of the broadcast, at the end of the 2 hours, John Statmiller invited me to be on with him for another 2 hours on his radio show on his network, which we did. And I believe that's what you're talking about, Greg, right?
That's correct, sir. And an iceberg
Okay.
it is. It could sink a fleet of Titanics.
All right, let's talk about what you know.
I've experienced these hospitals become basically giant corporations where they retain their name, like Mercy, like the one you went to, but they're really under a giant, bigger umbrella of another corporation, and they're just using that name because it's a familiar name. And
Well, I can tell you you're absolutely right, because as I read the back of this business card from Lacey Phillips, who is the nurse manager of 3D Medical at Mercy Hospital, Springfield, Missouri, the back of her business card is imprinted with these words: "As the Sisters of Mercy before us, we bring to life the healing ministry of Jesus through our compassionate care and exceptional service."
I would consider that fraudulent advertising.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I hope that, I'm quite sure that their lawyers are listening, and I'm looking forward to them contacting us. Yeah, I'm looking forward to them contacting us, because whatever we do, I will expose it as we are doing it. Okay?
I know. I had to laugh really hard when you mentioned you invited that nursing supervisor to come on, because there's no way she's going to come on your show.
She won't even answer my calls.
Exactly.
No, I think that they have this system in place where if they see my phone number calling in, I'm serious. I think that if they see it, they say, "Oh, that's Finelli. Okay, transfer him to patient safety," which is risk management.
Oh yeah, they do. Oh yeah, you're a marked man there.
And so what have you seen? Well, actually, what is your role in?
I was a hospital engineer.
Okay, what does that mean?
We make the building run, take care of heating, air conditioning, run boilers, do repairs, add services to rooms. You know, if they need electricity, computer wires. I mean, everything.
What kinds of things have you seen that you went home and told your family, "Oh man, you won't believe what happened today"? What kind of things did you see?
Well, it's all about liability there on one hand, but then if you have a big emergency or a crisis, it's just do whatever you have to do to get it fixed. And right or wrong, do whatever you have to do to get it fixed. And
Have you seen doctors protecting doctors when they make mistakes?
Well, it's very compartmentalized in that area. You rarely know, being in my position. They only tell you just enough to do your job. They got everybody scared there that they're going to lose their job. I know I've had, when I went to get the flu vaccine and you start asking questions, they blow you off. They won't talk to you. The health and safety nurses.
One of our health and safety, one of our instructors is an emergency room doctor, and he said that he's being forced to take a vaccine, and they're going to test him to make sure he took it. And if he doesn't take it, they will fire him as an emergency room medical doctor.
Exactly.
Greg, would you like to stick around through the break?
Sure.
Okay. Dr. Shealy's with us. Greg in California. Dr. Norman Shealy is with us. NormShealy.com. 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 And please sign up for the same free newsletter that I get. Greg in California is with us. He's a hospital engineer. And Dr. Shealy and Greg, let me share something with you, and I'd like Greg to comment, and then Dr. Shealy. When I was studying management at the School of Management at the university, one of the things that I learned was that you can measure how well a corporation is doing very, very quickly without looking at the numbers. If you go into the cafeteria, and the cafeteria is noisy and boisterous, and people are laughing and smiling, and there's a lot of fun and exuberance there, the company's probably doing well. If you go into the cafeteria and everybody's really quiet, it's probably a blame-finding organization that's not doing well. So my question for Greg, and the reason I asked you to go first, is what have you seen over the years in the cafeteria relating to not the patients, but the employees? Have you seen a change over the years in the happiness as exhibited by the noise in the cafeteria with the employees and the discussions that they have among each other, and the chatting in the elevators, those kinds of things, then and now? Have you seen a change?
Well, of course I have. And one thing you have to keep in mind is that these hospitals, they're not like any other kind of corporate economic activity that you've been involved with. They're their own special breed. I mean, you can come and pay your money and expect satisfaction, but you might not get it, and as you might find out, there ain't much you can do about it. But yeah, I have. They also they want a climate of quietness. They don't want you to be boisterous and do what you were talking about. They'll actually come and talk to you and tell you to keep it down because they want it to be quiet there so they can promote the healing environment. And
well, I can understand. I can understand if the employees are in the same room as the patients, and a couple guys or gals or guys and gals are joking and laughing it up, and 3 tables over, there's someone who is going through the last stages of life, and so I can understand that. But I'm trying to differentiate that from those who you might be working with and having fun and kind of sharing some of your experiences at home on the weekend, something that you might have seen in the movies or television, or a book you've read or something you've done, and just share some fun things. And that's what I've seen in decline in America over 3 decades. And I'm wondering if you've seen the same thing in your circles, not where you're forced not to.
Well, yeah, because these corporations have been reorganized so many times. You're probably not going to find someone like me who worked 35 years in one place. Everyone's floating around, trying to get the best deal they can, the most money they can for their time. A lot of these nurses are contract nurses who have no loyalty to the hospital. Their only loyalty is to their pocketbook. And they travel around from place to place.
That's a real problem. Dr. Shealy, what are your thoughts?
Well, as you know, I sort of gave up on hospitals over 40 years ago.
Yes.
In fact, interestingly, yesterday, our farm foreman called his wife, who also manages our business, and said he was going into town and he saw an ambulance coming this way with no lights on and wanted to be sure I was okay. And I said, he need not worry. If I get to the stage where I can't take care of myself, I don't want to go to a hospital. I'd rather recycle.
Dr. Shealy, I believe that there are a few ways that you can accelerate one's death. One is to join the military and become a target. 2 is to be stopped by the police for some kind of a papers encounter like license and registration. Or 3, go to the hospital.
Unfortunately, that is true.
I think those are like 3 of the best ways to die. Greg, do you have any other comments you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, I wanted to get Dr. Shealy's opinion on some of my opinions.
I love it. Go ahead.
One of my mantras is, I'm going to stay home and die in peace. I'm not going to the hospital.
Well, that is definitely, I think that was exactly what I was describing. I've told my kids, if they call and I don't answer the phone, they leave a message, don't come over for at least a week. I want to be sure I'm dead before you get here.
And I'm losing track of my thoughts here. One more I got. Hospitals are the most dangerous, unorganized places on the planet. I heard that on a comedian show, and the comedians were talking about the hospital I worked at.
Well, I'm not sure. I think there's the White House.
Boy, there's definitely double-minded men there. It's scary. It's scary. It's something I'm passionate about. I get told to shut up every time I start talking about things. I admire you fellas. At least you're willing to talk about stuff.
Greg, thank you for so much for calling in today.
All right, I could talk more, but I don't want to take up all your time.
Hey, Greg, you're right on. Thanks for calling.
Feel free to call in anytime.
I've never called anybody before. Never felt anybody was worthy of calling.
Wow.
In my search for the truth.
We're flattered.
Well, you should be, because it's man, we're just outnumbered and overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what, I'm like you, I don't know what happened. It's like he woke up on another planet.
Well, Craig, let me share this with you and Dr. Shealy. I was on the tractor this morning, and what I do before the broadcast is I feed the cows a couple thousand pounds of hay, literally 2,000 pounds of hay before the broadcast, and I feed them again after the broadcast. And so I'm on the tractors every day, and this morning I was thinking how bad it's going to be. Yes, we're outnumbered, but there's a silver lining in this dark cloud of all these people who are doing all these bad things to us. They can't possibly survive what's coming because they are fully dependent on the system. There's no way that they can all survive. So it's kind of a self-limiting thing. These guys that are doing all these things to us, they won't be around. They can't be around because without electricity, they're going to die.
Yeah.
You raised a very, very interesting question that came in one of Joey's emails this morning about flushing the toilet in a situation like that. If you've got no water coming into your house, how are you going to take care of just that simple waste product?
Right. That's a real problem, and that came to mind as well. I was looking at the internet, and there was a post about this Cold War era bunker that this guy uncovered in his backyard. And yes, he had an air tube to allow air to exit, and didn't show the whole bunker. But a real problem is, everybody's got to pee and everybody's got to poo. Well, what do you do in that situation, in that bunker? Are you in there for 20 minutes? I don't think so. Are you in there for a day? I don't think so. If it's a radiological problem, you might be in there for a couple of weeks. Well, are we going to use plastic bags? That's going to be a huge problem. So for those who are thinking about bunkers, you need to have, a couple ways out of the bunker in case, the hatch gets sealed. You need to make sure that you have plenty of water, and you can get more water and food, and dispose of the waste products, so that you don't kill yourself.
Put in an old-fashioned hand pump.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Have you got that?
Yeah. The problem where we live, Dr. Shealy, your well and my well are probably over a couple hundred feet down.
Yep.
And in Springfield, Missouri, the first level aquifer at 450 feet is contaminated. It's ruined. And so what they've had to do to provide water to the community or the village of Springfield is to drill down below that, to the aquifer below that. And that one seems to be, better. And that comes from the president of a well drilling company, who's one of our instructors, Richard Linebaugh. He's told us that. So, if you think that you can just dig a hole or drill a hole or bore a hole and stick a pump in there, you may be poisoning yourself slowly or quickly. And that's why class, and it's going to sound self-serving, if you want to protect yourself, you need to have good, clean water. And you don't know what's coming. You really don't. You don't know how bad it might be. You don't know how bad the water might be. So you can test your water every day. You can test it every day before you drink it. That's kind of not practical. So just get a good, high-quality water filtration system. And the one that I recommend is by ProPure. That's the one that I like the best. And that's the one we use every day. We used to use another brand, and we like the ProPure the best. Seriously. This is not a commercial, it's an endorsement. So regardless of where you get your water filtration system from, please consider ProPure. Greg, do you have any stories that you'd like to share with us? Any horror stories? Things that you've witnessed out of the corner of your eye?
I just know that, like you and John were talking about, they're racing to the bottom. And like in my experience, you'd ask for qualified technical training, and they'd basically tell you to go train yourself. You'd get a very limited amount of qualified technical training, and the management might get upset if that qualified technical training took too long and took you away from your duties as assigned, because That's what it all, the bottom line of your job description is duties as assigned. So we can...
All right, let me ask you this as a hospital engineer. Oxygen. Have you ever noticed in all the years you've been there that there was a time when oxygen supplies were dangerously low?
No, we monitored that and we made sure it was full.
Okay. Have you ever seen a situation where the power went out and it was dangerous for some of the patients?
All that every time the generator went on, yeah, it's a crapshoot.
Okay.
They're not maintaining that thing like it's a Ferrari motor. It gets a minimum amount of...
Class, Dr. Norman Shealy's with us, and I'd like to share something that happened this morning that ties directly with what Dr. Shealy did at some of our meetups. Dr. Shealy offered his medical expertise at several of our meetups, and he offered a free blood pressure clinic and medical test. And what he did was he measured the blood pressure of anyone who wanted to come into the restaurant. And he spent a lot of time testing people's blood pressure, writing down what their blood pressure was. There was a waiting line, like 15 minutes long at any point in time, just to get a person's blood pressure tested. And then Dr. Shealy offered a sample of something called Kyani. That's the brand, Kyani. And the specific product is called Nitro Extreme, Nitro Xtreme. And I saw this, and Dr. Shealy repeated the results, or announced the results to us of each of these trials that he did publicly, right then and there. And our family has been on Kyani Nitro Extreme and some of the other Kyani products as well every day. And I just want to share with Dr. Shealy some of the numbers from this morning. So before my mom got up and we had her, we are constantly trying to improve her health as a result of the damage that the hospital did to her No Mercy Hospital in Springfield, Missouri. And her blood pressure this morning after she got up and sat down and was 164/84. We gave her a glass of water and 3 half droppers of Kyani Nitro Extreme, and we tested her blood pressure 15 minutes later, which is about the time that Dr. Shealy was interested in seeing the results of 15 to 30 minutes after Kyani Nitro Extreme. Her blood pressure went from 164/84 to 144/72 in 15 minutes. Dr. Shealy, so my question is that the kind of results that you saw when we had the meetups and we did those tests?
Yes, absolutely typical. At least 70% of people get that kind of result. And incidentally, the best result with a combination of antihypertensive drugs up to 3 is about 45% get some control of blood pressure. And if you're a man, you get an ED. And if you're anybody, you get fatigue. But other than that, the drugs aren't too bad.
Well, and that's why we don't want anyone in our family on these drugs that you're mentioning. And when my mom was at the hospital, the pharmacist came into the room and he said, okay, I'm the pharmacist. I said, great. How can I help you? And he said, well, I have these list of drugs your mom's on. And he read them off, and I said, no, she's not on those. And he got to furosemide, which is Lasix, and I said, we have that here in case of an emergency. We might give her 1/4 of a tablet, but we haven't done that for 30 days. And it's a very low dose anyway. But that's only if she has fluid buildup, or we think she does. Anyway, and that would be not something that she would get very often. So I explained that to him. So what does the hospital do? The nurse comes in and gives her blood pressure medicine. and she starts coughing with this very wet cough, which is why she's not on those blood pressure medicines, because of the complications that they cause. And I told the nurse, what are you guys doing? You know, we turn our backs for a second, and then you guys do this. We already went through this. Her chart says no, 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 and you do it anyway. And so what do? They do it again. Dr. Shealy, they're not paying attention. And I explained Kyani Nitro Extreme. No one has heard of it. No one's heard of it. No nurses, no doctors, nobody's heard of it. And I said, just watch what happens. And I showed them. But they don't pay attention. We'll be right back.
Everyone all set? Yeah? Cocked? Locked? Here we go. Hour number 2 of USAPrepares.com. We're delighted you're here with us today. And let me give you out a phone number in case you decide to call us. 866-582-9933. 866-582-9933. And if you'd like to take us with you as you travel or listen 24/7, the listen line, 605-477-3249. Today, part 6 of extreme tax deductions. Business use of the home, potential business expenses, tax deductions. And class, all of the statements that I make are based on life experiences. What others have experienced firsthand, they contain my opinions. Proceed at your own risk. Don't believe anything that I say. Do your own research. Consider this particular class and the 5 that preceded it on tax deductions, starting your own business. Consider it as entertainment. Do not do any of the things that we discuss in this class if you are not willing to defend yourself. Okay? I'm delighted to be broadcasting with Marty Barrett. Marty Barrett is a college instructor. She's been teaching for decades in the hard sciences. Welcome, Marty Barrett.
Hey, I figured we forgot a big segment of my taxes. I'm from one of those states that pay tons of taxes on my property. And I think that's maybe a big place where I could save some money. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
Mm-hmm. Are you talking about the challenge that I had with the assessor's office in our county? Is that what you're talking about? And how that worked out
and
as,
how I
as
could
a
do that.
Okay. All right. Well, Marty, here's what I did. We've been at this particular farm location for 12 years. And our taxes have gone up and up and up. And I just happened to see the document come in the mail. Mrs. Finelli showed it to me. And it's titled the 2017 Notice of Change in Valuation of Real Property. And it locates the parcel number, the location, Mrs. Finelli's name, my name. And in Missouri, it's defined as a section, township, and range. So with those numbers, you can figure out exactly where the land is. And it delineates the 2016 year, and then the residential portion of the assessment, how much money they valued the residential portion of our property, and then there's the agricultural. And if we had commercial use of it and maybe commercial buildings, that'd be in there too. So what it is 2016, the residential plus the agricultural, and then that equals the total assessment. Then they put on the same document 2017, the residential amount, the agricultural amount, and the total. And then below that, they do a subtraction or an addition, and it tells you the change. And ours went up. Okay, it went up. The assessment went up $480. And so,
Such a random number.
Well, it was probably it's to appear scientific. It's a computer generated thing, and then below that it says, "Notice to taxpayer: if your assessed value has increased, it may increase your real property taxes, which are due December 31st. If you do not agree that the value of your property has increased, you must appeal the value on or before July 5th, 2017 by contacting your county assessor and then the phone number." Okay? So that's what it says. And so all the information I had was what it was in 2016 and what it went up to in 2017. And the difference was $480 in value. Now, that's not the tax amount. That's just what they value it at. And then they have a multiplier. And so our taxes, when Mrs. Finelli called, they said they would go up $20. And it's like, what's the big deal? Why would you even contest this for $20? Well, I did. So I made the appointment, and I showed up at the appropriate time, on time, within a couple seconds. I was a couple seconds early. So I met the assessor at the counter, and she was going to show me a couple pieces of paper with figures on them. And I said, is there a place where we can go sit down? Because this is going to take a while. So she thought this was going to be, 5 minutes maybe. Oh, no. So I had lots of questions. And my questions were about, well, let's look at every single line item. Let's look at all the information that you have on file. Everything you have on file about me regarding our property, regarding real estate taxes. Pictures, diagrams, square footage, the class of the land, the porches, if we have any, the roof over the porches, everything, every single thing that was taxed, item by item by item. Let's go over that, and I look at this as education. I was explaining to her that I'm really excited about this because I'm going to meet with the entire family. We're going to sit around the kitchen table, and we're going to discuss this because this is a great education. And thank you so much for meeting with me. Okay? That's how I approach this.
Now,
so what?
Did you dress poorly to impress them that you don't have any money?
No. Here's my strategy on that. And I'm glad you asked that question. My strategy is that I want them to understand that if this doesn't work out to my satisfaction, I'm going to be back. I'm not going to be back as a pauper. I'm going to be back as someone who understands what's going on. So when in a situation like this, I try to dress one step above whatever I expect them to dress as. Okay? Just one step above. So, for example, if I'm teaching a seminar on the road, or I will gauge the audience, however they're going to dress, and I will just move it up just one notch, just so that they know I'm the seminar leader. Okay, and I just wanted her to know that I'm in charge of this meeting too. So what did I wear? She dressed as a typical person in a public position. It used to be that people who had government jobs would wear a jacket and a tie, or they might wear a sports coat. Now they really kind of dress down. If they have a golf shirt on, a collared golf shirt with khaki slacks, that's pretty upscale today. Well, we'll call that the equivalent of what she had.
Okay.
What I had was actually that's a little above what she had. I had my dark blue jeans, dark blue, okay, not washed out. My combat boots, polished, my combat belt, a pressed long sleeve shirt, solid color. But I did not wear a jacket and I did not wear a tie. When I speak, I will wear the same thing except I'll wear a white shirt, long sleeve, broadcloth, ironed white with a tie, and a blue blazer. That's what I wear. Same thing, same kind of jeans, same combat belt, same combat boots, but white shirt, long sleeves, and tie. Okay, so that's how I dress.
Impressed?
Impressed in what respect?
Did she give you respect?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Because it wasn't like I had my arms crossed. My body language it did not indicate I was ready for a fight. It was Columbo. I was Columbo and I was confused. And I had, a couple tools with me. I had a notebook, a spiral bound notebook. I had the tax documents that they sent us, and I had my calculator. So she knew that there was going to be some figuring on the calculator as we progressed, because I wanted to understand everything. And then what I did was I asked her she had documents in front of her that had pictures of the house, pictures of the barns, pictures of the land, pictures of, the outbuilding.
She had those?
She had, absolutely. It's all in her computer system.
Where did she get those from?
Okay, well, she showed up at our house at one point with her camera and took pictures. And then she had a measuring tape, and she went around and measured the outside of the buildings.
Did you see her do
No. I mean, sometimes I have, but they just show up. So now I have to keep the gate locked. You have to keep the gate locked because you never know when these guys are going to show up.
Right.
Usually they show up in January. So we'll keep the gate locked in January. But that's what they do. So she had all these pictures, and so I kept referring to that, and I kept wanting to write on her pictures and her with my pen and pencil, which was a problem because those were the official documents, which caused her to say, "Would you like a copy of that?" "Oh, thank you so much. That would be great. I'd love to have a copy." So now I have copies of whatever they have records of. So I have a total file. I have the entire dossier, I believe, or almost the entire dossier on what they have on us. So I have all kinds of handwritten notes, and I asked her to update them, and I asked about everything. Now, in our case, they go by the square footage of the house, and they go by the construction. And I've mentioned on the air that we live in Tornado Alley, and because of that, I wanted a house that could sustain a strong wind. And so we built the house out of heavier timbers than normally done. And we built the siding is stone, and 220 tons of stone. So our house is classified the same as a brick house, and brick is classified as a more expensive cost of building than, let's say, clapboard or cedar shakes or vinyl. So there was an uptick on there. So I asked, okay, what about how did you classify the house? How many square feet? The roof pitch, does that make a difference? We have a very steep roof pitch. That did not make a difference. The type of shingles, for example, if it were a steel roof, it'd be a different value than composition shingles like most people have. We have composition. And so I asked all those questions. If we had fireplaces, it would probably increase the value of our house. We do not, in terms of a masonry fireplace. I didn't want one because of the fire hazard. And it costs more for fire insurance. I'd rather have an outdoor wood furnace. We talked about the type of heating, okay? And I asked questions about, how do you value an outdoor wood furnace for the main heating system versus, propane or a heat pump or that kind of thing. So all these questions went into the final figures, and I asked, and I only ask questions that I know the answers to. And I guide the discussion to where I want it to go. Okay, I'm in charge.
Yes.
I'm in charge of this meeting.
I see that.
It does not necessarily appear to be. I want the other person to feel they're in charge. When I arrived, I knew that the tax assessor was really in a rush, and she said, yeah, just so busy. I've got so many things I have to do. And I said, well, take your time. I cleared my schedule for the rest of the day. Now, that's exactly the opposite of what she wanted to hear, right? She's in a big hurry. She's trying to get. Yeah, she's in a hurry, and I got all day. They're mutually exclusive, right? So now she realizes that this is going to be a problem because I'm not leaving. And it's not like the meeting is scheduled for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It's open-ended. I just show up until we're done. So
did you have an assigned meeting time?
I had an assigned meeting time, yes.
Okay.
But yes, I had an appointment time, but not an appointment duration. So it wasn't like 2 o'clock to 2:30. It was 2 o'clock, that kind of thing. So I just showed up
at 2 a.m. as far as you're concerned.
Till we're done. Well, to me, I've got all day, and I let her know. I said, "This is great. I love it. I'm ready for as long as this takes. Thank you so much. This is a wonderful experience. I'm really looking. This is wonderful. I'm enjoying it." Okay, that's how I approached it. Do you have another question for me, or do you want me to continue?
Well, how long were you there ultimately?
Well, over an hour, close to 2.
Okay.
So 2 hours with the chief of the department. She is the tax assessor. She is the boss. Everybody else reports to her. Okay. So I was tying up the boss's time. Now normally, getting a meeting with the boss for half hours is over the top, right? How do you do that?
Right.
Well, right. So, and I do it just by asking questions. And by asking so many questions, the other person is off guard. because they just don't get a chance to, resume composure. It's not like I beat them up.
Justify everything they're saying.
Correct. They have to justify everything they say, because each question I ask has 3 or 4 more follow-up questions. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now,
so then within a couple minutes,
because it got raised, could you do this even if you just want to investigate it?
Absolutely.
And it didn't go up?
Absolutely. I would want to know, where is the justification for this? And I'd like to, in my case, there are not comparables. What that means is I don't live in a neighborhood that has the fourth house over on the other side of the street is similar, except maybe the porch is different. It's not like that. There are no properties that are exactly like ours, not even close. The slope of the land is different, the acreage is different, the style of the house, the construction of the house, the square footage of the house, the location of the wells, the depth of the wells, the length of the driveway. Everything's different here. Okay, there's no cookie cutter approach to where we live. So I couldn't bring with me comparables of neighbors. Now, if I did live in a development or a neighborhood that had some similar properties, not identical, but maybe similar, I would talk to the neighbors. I would be friendly with the neighbors and say, hey, listen, I'm going to challenge my taxes. Here's what I have. Would you be willing to share information with me, and I'll share it with you, and maybe we can both get our taxes lowered, or maybe get 3 families together, or have them over for lunch, or the weekend, or a cookout, and say, hey, just bring up that I'm going to be doing this. And then, because typically what happens in the corporate world and in job world, people do not share salaries. The companies try to say, well, you never tell your salary. Don't do that. It's like against the law or something. No, it's not against the law. What they don't want the employees to know what others are making, because then you can all ask for raises. That's what that's all about. So what I would do is cooperate with the neighbors. I would say, well, here's what mine are. I don't mind showing you. It's like it's a deep, dark secret. No, it's not. It's actually public information. If they wanted to look it up, they could. So the answer is to ask a lot of questions, but make sure you know going in. Look at your building plans. Look at the square footage of your house. Know those measurements, or have notes about how large your house is, how big the rooms are, that kind of thing. And then
how about the builder's plans? Would that be a good thing to bring?
Absolutely.
Okay.
If you wanted to, but I would do it in note form. I'd have that with me, but I wouldn't offer that. I wouldn't say, let's spread this out and look at it. I would only do that if I knew that I were right, and I wanted to challenge them. Say, well, here's the plans. And what I did, in our house, they wanted to measure it. I said, well, here's the plans. But what I did was I photocopied the plans, reduced the plans, and took out everything on the inside. I only gave them outside dimensions. That's all I would give them. So we use my measurements, not their measurements, my measurements, because I know mine are right. Last couple quick announcements. I don't do this very often, but I've been invited to be a guest on John Stadtmiller's broadcast on Republic Broadcasting tonight at 6 p.m. Central Time. So I'll be there tonight, 6 p.m. Central Time, with John Stadtmiller on Republic Broadcasting. And Marty, I wanted to let you know that you may wonder, is anybody paying attention to what we're saying? Well, I just checked TalkStream Live, TalkStreamLive.com, and it shows all the major broadcasts in the United States, and of about 100 different broadcasts that are running right now, we're number 21. So are people paying attention? Yeah, they're paying attention. And here's something interesting. So I mentioned at the beginning of the broadcast that you can appeal the valuation. Well, I don't look at it that way. I'm not going to appeal it. I want them to prove to me that they got it right. So I'm looking at it.
You challenged everything where you said your building was not brick. It was wood with stone over the top.
Yeah.
Did you challenge that they shouldn't count you as brick?
I did, but see, here's the difference there. Now, brick is the highest valuation that they go. Stone is even more expensive than brick. And it's not because the stone costs more. The stone actually costs less. But fitting every single individual unique shape of stone on the wall is tough. Okay, it took 18 months just to get the stone on the side of the house. 18 months.
Wow.
So it was a huge job. Framing the house, that could be done in like 3 months, but getting the stone up, 18 months. So that's. I asked that question. You're absolutely right. I challenge every single thing, but not with my arms crossed. Not looking for a fight. Just I need to understand. Help me understand. Okay. So that's the whole purpose of how this works. And if you ask all these questions politely, it really works, because then they have to prove it. And then pretty soon they start saying, you know what, now let's look at this. Maybe I can save you some time, which really means maybe I can save me some time. And here's something I might have made a mistake on. Okay. And that's what happened. So the question that you're probably wondering is, what's the result, right? What's the result of all this?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Our tax evaluation was lowered.
How much?
Well, I don't really want to say that, but it was lowered enough so that it made it worth going to do. And also, I verified that every single acre, and there's over a couple hundred acres of on this farm, so every single acre, I looked at the satellite map as to how the valuation was made. For example, there are different grades of land or classifications of land. So if it's real rocky and you've got boulders on it, you can't really plow it. You can't really plant on it because you have boulders there. If it's less rocky and you still can't plow it, it's worth more, but not as much as bottom land. Bottom land would be flat land that has flooded, over the thousands of years and has the silt in it and is the best land possible. Okay, that would be the highest valued land. So I wanted to know, acre by acre, over a couple hundred acres, how every single acre on the property was valued. Now, how do I know what it should be? I live here. I've been all over the farm.
Right.
I know it's woods. Okay, so I'm looking at the satellite map, and we're clicking the mouse, increment by increment, looking at just acre at a time. And I want to know, and I want to make sure it's right. Now, yes, they did have that right. They really did. But where they did not have it right was the value of the buildings. Now they assumed that somebody else built the buildings. Well, they didn't. I did. So they said, well, here's how much it's worth. And I said, but that's not how much it cost, because I built it. It cost way less than that. Way less. So they had to reduce the value of the buildings because I built them. Okay. Now they may make assumptions. They may assume that because of the kind of a house someone may live in that has granite countertops in the kitchen and fancy chandeliers and fancy wiring and all that. And I challenged that, and I said, no, we don't have any of that. We don't have any of that. And they had that right too. They had just average plumbing, average electrical.
Now, how do they know that?
So, well, they're going to have to take my word. I'm not. Well, they just assumed that, which was nice of them. But I'm not going to let them inside. They're not getting pictures of the inside of my house.
What would happen if they looked in your house?
I'd throw them out. They have no business looking in my house.
Would they start looking around, this looks pretty nice?
You mean looking in the windows?
No, I mean, what would happen if you did let them in?
I wouldn't. What they'd be interested. Well, people are curious, right? Well, it's none of their business. It's none of their business. They can only go by the square footage in the exterior. They are not privy to the inside of my house. That's my house.
They don't even know how many bedrooms you have.
No. They've asked, and we've told them. They want to know the number of bedrooms and bathrooms. And that's okay. That's okay. But I'm not going to tell them exactly where they are. I'm not going to give them a map if they want to bash my door down. The cops or the sheriff wants to come in, and I'm not going to give them a map where everything is. He's going to have to find that out. The minute I find out he's coming in, we're going to learn together how this works. It'll be terrible. But I'm not giving him a map of my house.
Okay.
So do you have?
How often would you say this should be done?
Well,
this challenge.
In my case, whenever there's a change, I would challenge it. Now they may say, well, the value of the land has gone up. Okay, they may say, well, per acre, the county's done this to everybody, and that's going to be a tough nut to crack. I can't challenge that if it's applied to everybody. But if they say your residence went up, I'm going to say why. Your outbuildings went up. Why? We didn't make any changes. What caused that to happen?
Do they specify whether it's an overall increase or whether it's just residential?
Okay, here's how it's done. They have a number for residential and a number for agricultural, 2 numbers. And they add them together, and that's the total assessment. So they change. So I want to know why they change. Now, it could be a phone call. I could say, why did the agricultural number go up? Well, everybody's did because we changed the value of an acre of land. It's worth more now, or it's worth less. Actually, in our case, the value of the land went down. Not much, less than, 1/10 of 1%, but it did go down. But the residential value went up, and I wanted to know why.
Okay.
The bottom line is forever, I saved money, okay? So from now on, unless they make a mistake, our real estate valuation is lower than it was before I went there.
Should everybody challenge their property taxes?
Absolutely. But you need to have some information going in. You need to know the size of your house, and you just can't go in and you're going to get one shot at this. So
Right.
make sure that if you do it, you have enough information to go in. And in your case, I'd go in with my husband. Talk about it ahead of time. Expect that this is a meeting where you're. It's like going to court almost, where you're going to defend your position. But actually, you're going to do it by asking questions. How does this work?
And in a non-confrontational way.
Correct. But you've got all day. You have all day. Well, I mean, they may say, "I'm sorry, I've got another appointment at 2:30," and you say, "Wow, that's too bad. I guess they'll have to wait." They'll just have to wait, right? Because I'm here now. Yeah, it's like when,
all over.
Well, yeah, it's like calling the CEO of a corporation, and I'll call the CEO of a corporation, and they'll say, "I'm sorry, he's in a meeting," and I'll say, "Well, that's okay. I'll wait while you get him out."
Do they?
Yes, they do. It depends. It depends. They don't always do that. Sometimes they think, that guy's got some sense of humor. He's the CEO, and it's just some guy calling. But sometimes they're so they realize that maybe it's really important. That's why I'm willing to wait. But nobody says that, right? Nobody says I'm willing to wait. Why you get him out? Mm-hmm. Yep.
Do you make a habit of calling the CEOs of companies?
Only if I need to. Now, advertisers on this broadcast, when I hear a new advertiser, I will call them up. And I'll say, "Hey, thank you so much for advertising. I'd love to speak with the CEO." And then I'll introduce myself. And then I'll let them explain to me who they are, what they do, why they do it. And I want to know why they should advertise on the show. I don't get anything for it. I don't get compensated for it. But I want to make sure that if they're advertising, that it's a product that relates and a service that relates and a value that relates to our mission. Otherwise, they can't do it. Because I have an agreement with I have an agreement with the network that I can 86 any advertisers that I don't like.
And which type would you not like?
People who are dishonest. If I think they're dishonest, or if I've heard bad things about their reputation, if I think that they would cheat any of our broadcast classroom, they'd be gone.
What about if they're damaging to the environment?
I certainly wouldn't want that. Mm-hmm. I certainly wouldn't want that. Now, look, we beat up Walmart all the time. Okay? Mm-hmm. The Chinese factory outlet. I'll mention them, but I don't go out looking for fights. But if I think there's some damage that would happen to our classroom, absolutely, I stand firmly for our classroom.
Don't want to mislead your listeners.
Correct. And that's why we have such a high level.
Many people feel that way. Most people feel the dollar rules.
Oh, no, it does not. It does not. I believe that if you take care of your customers and you act honestly, above board, with integrity, you don't have to worry about profitability. That will just happen. I believe that you should do it the old-fashioned way. You should treat your customers well, take care of them way better than they expect to be taken care of, and they will do the advertising for you.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Mm-hmm. When we had our computer company in Virginia, we didn't even have our phone number listed. There was no yellow page ad. There was no advertisements in any media of any kind, no website, and it was all word of mouth. And we were the biggest computer company around. And it's because our customers did the advertising for us.
How did you get the first customers?
Well, this guy heard that I was in the computer business. He heard that I was a computer jockey for a large bank. In small, when you're in a little village, people hear and talk, and they knew that that's what I did. And they asked me for advice, and one guy led to the next, and next, and next. And I remember one of our very first customers said, "Your price is so low. What's the catch?" I said, what do you mean? He said, well, it's so low, what's the catch? And I said, there is no catch. And so for a couple of years, she's trying to figure out where the catch is. There was no catch. Marty Barrett's with us, and we're talking about lowering your taxes. Marty, questions about your husband's band?
Yeah, he practices in one room of our house, but most of the time the band itself practices elsewhere. Does that still mean I can deduct that room from my taxes?
Well, absolutely. Does he if he uses that room exclusively for practicing? Absolutely. If he uses it, yeah. Now, if you use it for other things, then I would apportion how much he uses that room for the band versus, family use. So if he uses one room half of the time, I'd apportion it 50-50. If we're talking about a 7-room house, typically that's the number we've been using for this for these classes. So take 1/7, but half of 1/7. Now, if in your case, in your case, you've got 1/7 for your tutoring business, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And if he's going to use a different room, that'd be 1/7 for him too. So now we've got 2/7. 2/7. That's 2/7 of what? 2/7 of everything. The household expenses, the electricity, the real estate taxes, the roof repair, the plumbing repair, all those things that that go into the operation of the house. 2/7 of that.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Now we're talking.
Now, what
serious.
about instruments? He owns a number of guitars. And,
he can
some
sell.
are expensive and some are not.
Yeah. Well, if he decides that he wants to sell from him to the business, he can do that at an arm's length transaction value. Okay. So I don't know how much a guitar costs. Let's say $1,000. Let's say if he were going to put that guitar on eBay and he would receive $1,000 for it, realistically, then he can sell it to the business for $1,000.
Okay. They won't question that?
Well, I would go to eBay and I'd print out something that, same guitar, same condition, and just print that out and have that ready to go. And so they say, where'd you get the $1,000? I said, right here.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow.
But then again, I don't use round numbers for anything. Nothing. I don't even pump gas in a round number because it's suspect. I don't put $32 worth of fuel in my car. It might be $31.74. I will not, no matter what, I do not use round numbers for anything.
It just looks too tidy.
It does. It does.
Too forced.
And I was audited once for way decades ago for $500 worth of charitable contributions. They hauled me into the IRS and they said, "What's this all about? It's $500." I said, "What do you mean?" So I added up the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, going to church, all the checks, and it added up to 500.00. They said, "Well, that's what this is about. It looks suspicious." I said, "I'll never do that again."
Now, do all your contributions have to be checks?
I have records for all my contributions, yes. And if I don't, I have a receipt.
Okay. Like Goodwill or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'd rather do something other than Goodwill. I don't like Goodwill. I'll tell you why. I mean, what kind of a business? I mean, Goodwill receives free inventory and then they sell it. Okay. I'd rather sell it on the internet, for example, and then help somebody directly rather than give it to Goodwill.
Well, that's what I'm wondering about. We have a young woman that we help. She called the church where my husband works and said she had no food, no diapers, nothing. She's a young woman with 2 children. We started helping her as our charity, thinking that she needed everything. We got her to go to school to get a skill, donated a car from some friends of ours, and furniture and supplies. Can I deduct any of that we've done for her?
No.
Even though she's not a charity.
No, you can't.
Okay.
No, you can't. No.
I'd rather see it go to somebody than just to some executive somewhere,
Right. Well, like United Way, 11% goes where you think it's going. The rest goes to overhead. So what we do exactly what you do. We help people directly. We do not have the luxury of taking that as tax deductions. However, we know that 100% of what we provide for someone's assistance gets to that person. Now, we don't give them money.
Right.
Like, if someone needed their mortgage paid, we would help them with that. Maybe, if we could. But if they need food, They get food. They don't get money for food. They get food. Because I want to make sure that they don't take the money and buy cigarettes, or take the money and buy beer, or take the money and buy Cheetos. They're going to get food that we approve of. Because we're in charge, and we're buying it. And I applaud you. I applaud you for doing it. So, Marty, 6 hours, and we didn't really finish.
We're not done yet.